Also give my condolences on the demise of Honorable Johanna Ngeno and the people that he was with in that flight. Mr. Speaker, I know many people have struggled to call his constituency, but I called him by his constituency. I called him Emurua Dikir, because when I first came in as nominated, and I sat in a committee that was concerned with redistricting, he came to our committee, he sent delegations, and he was so passionate that when he finally got elected, I only knew him as Emurua Dikir. And Mr. Speaker, because now when he got elected, I was serving at the same time with him, we used to sit with him, compare notes, and share, and he was so committed to his constituency. Because of time, I want to say that he was fearless, funny, resolute, principled, no-nonsense, committed to justice.
Thank you. Member for Njoro.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are mourning our colleague, Mheshimiwa Ngeno, Njoro constituency, myself and my family. We have sincerely lost a great man, a man who was reliable. He was available even for us members of parliament in our events. In my constituency, he has come very many times. Therefore, we are really mourning a good man, a man who was very hardworking. He is a man who also, we really struggled so much when we were fighting for our people. They were being evicted from their own farms in the name of evictions of Mau. Therefore, he is a champion who has really fought for his people not to be evicted in the farms. Therefore, as we mourn, may we pray for the family. We pray also for Kenyans to keep peace. We also request for Kenyans to be at peace and also ensure that we allow the investigating team to finish their work peacefully. Thank you so much.
Edith Nyanze.
Thank you, Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Let me take this opportunity to pass my condolences. My condolences and those of my constituency to the family of the late Honorable Ngeno, especially to their young wife. I say Pole, because of the loss of your loved one. There are so many lessons which we can learn from our colleague. And some of the lessons is importance of youth involvement. We can also learn about leadership by example. We can learn about empowering others. We can learn about courage and conviction. We can learn about selflessness and dedication. And above all, we would also learn that we are in a journey, and the journey, we don't know when our journey will come to an end. So let me pass my...
Ambassador Sigai.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving the opportunity to also join my colleagues. Mr. Speaker, I've just come from Honorable Ngeno's house in Karen. Honorable Ngeno's constituency is a neighbor to mine. Mr. Speaker, the artists which Ngeno was always fighting for are mainly based in Kablong. And as we speak today, Mr. Speaker, a whole delegation from Kablong has gone to Mwadikit to go and pay homage to these great men. In the evening today, Mr. Speaker, in Kablong, our people are going to light candles. And in the other Sotik constituency, they are going to light candles to remember this man. We have lost a great man in the Gipsigis land. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Ken Chonga.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipatia nafasi hii. Ama kweli bunge hili limepoteza mtu ambaye kwamba kila aliyemjua alimjua kwa ukarimu wake. Mheshimiwa Spika, bunge la 12 wakati mimi nimechaguliwa nikiwa sijamaliza hatujaanza ile recess ya kwanza, ninakumbuka kukutana na Johanna Ngeno kwa constituency yangu kwenye kikao ambacho sikuwa nimemwalika wala hata sikujua amealikwa na nani. Ilikuwa ni kikao cha vijana ambao wanaanza kujuza talanta zao. Nikakutana naye na sikuwa nimemjua kuwa ni mbunge. Mpaka wakati alipotambulishwa ndio mimi nikaona kwamba tuko wabunge wawili. Mungu ailaze pema peponi. Mheshimiwa Johanna Ngeno aliacha mfano ambao kwamba wengi tutangangana sana kuingia kwa viatu vyake, lakini haitakuwa rahisi. Mungu alaze mahali pema peponi.
Rose Museo. Rose Museo.
Thank you. Asante Bwana Spika kwa nafasi hiyo. Nachukua wakati huu kuweza kuomboleza Mheshimiwa Ng'eno ambaye tulikuja bunge na yeye tangu mwaka wa 2013. Kwa niaba yangu na familia yangu na watu wa Makueni, tumepoteza kiongozi aliyekuwa shujaa, kiongozi ambao tulimuenzi kwa vile ambavyo alikuwa na upendo mwingi mkubwa sana kwa watu wa huko wa eneo bunge la kwake. Tuseme ya kwamba Kenya imepoteza, Kenya inahuzunika, na tunaomba ya kwamba usafiri huu ambao unakuwa wa ndege zikaangaliwe sana kabla kuondoka, na pia warubani wafundishwe kuendesha ndege vyema ili maisha ya wabunge yasiweze kuwa hatarini. Na tunasema pole sana kwa familia yote ya Mheshimiwa Johana Ng'eno.
Ndindi Nyoro.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And I join other Kenyans in mourning all the 6 Kenyans who lost their lives last week through the tragic accident. Honorable Speaker, we all know here that Honorable Ng'eno was a leader of his own kind, very courageous, brave, and always standing for what is right for the people. And I am sure, Honorable Speaker, that we can all learn a lesson in this House, that every time given a choice between standing on the side of the powers that be and standing with what is right for the people, that we must always choose to rise up, Honorable Speaker, and be counted by standing on what is right for the people of Kenya, Honorable Speaker, because they are the true bosses. We said our condolences to the family, and may peace that surpasses all understanding be with the family of Honorable Ng'eno and all the 5 other Kenyans who lost their lives alongside him. Thank you very much.
Cases.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. For me to stand here today to eulogize my good friend, indeed to me, I've lost a dear friend. Everyone knows that among the leaders who supported me, especially during campaign, is one Johana Ng'eno, who came several times. And even after election, he has visited Keses more than once on development or on social issues. Johana Ng'eno, we worked with him even in last year, December. We traversed even far beyond up to Uganda on support of artists of Uganda among those who are in Kenya. He is a man indeed that has shown and has grown his people. It is said back in his constituency, since he was elected, the community there was able to grow the education of their children more than enough now have gone to university. We've lost him, and I want to say that fair DJ Bambumbu, to the family, to the widows, Soinai, we want to say, God be with you, be strong, as we stick to say that God will raise another leader to take over from him. May his soul rest in peace.
Nyakundi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I also want to convey my sincere heartfelt condolences on my own behalf, on behalf of the people of Kitutu Church North, and also on behalf of Team Ground, where the Speaker is also part of that team. Ng'eno was a fearless, courageous man who fought for the rights of his people. He was one person who was very passionate of what he was doing, from assisting artists, fighting for his people, and more so, fighting for affordable housing. Most people were scared of affordable housing, but if there's one person who fought for the legislation of affordable housing and the markets, was this man called Johana Ng'eno. I remember 1 week ago we were with him in Isiolo campaigning for Tubi Mohamed Tubi, who is now a member of parliament. We remember Johana Ng'eno as one person who was a fine guy, one person who never walked with a bodyguard, but people just...
Mario.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this chance to eulogize our friend, our brother in this house. I want to give my condolences to the 6 who perished in that plane crash, and I pray that God may take care of their families and be able to comfort them, because He is the greatest comforter. What I would like to say is Ng'eno was a very good man. I approached him when I had a problem with affordable houses, and he was able to help me so that I could have gotten through whatever I wanted to get from the affordable houses. And I want to thank God that his life was an example to many, and he has gone having done a lot for the people
Janet
of his
Stianei.
constituency. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Janet Stianei.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to eulogize with my colleagues. I wish on my behalf and on behalf of the people of Turbo to condole with the families of the late Honorable Ngeno and the rest of the 5 who perished with him. I want to wish them that may God give them strength to bear the loss. That was a great man we lost. That was a man who stood and loved his constituency. May God rest his soul in eternal peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First and foremost, on my own behalf and that of my family and the people of Baringo North and Baringo County, I want to take this opportunity to condole with the family, the wife of Joanna Ngeno, his 2 children, his parents, and the great people of Emurua Digir, and the Kipsigis nation at whole, that we have lost a gallant soldier who had actually come to Baringo North 4 times. Kipcherere High School, Poi, Full Gospel Church, Torlokwanin AIC, Partaba Full Gospel Church, and always standing with me all the time. So, Speaker, this is a patriot that was able to help artists across Kenya, regardless whether they are Christians or secular. Is a fanatic, and I have gone to Kapkatet for that particular purpose. Even as we rest his soul, Mr. Speaker, let the government also investigate what Ngeno was fighting for in
Lengres.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to send my condolences and that of my family and that of the people of Samburu to the family of Honorable Ngeno, the people of Muradikir, and the people of Narok County at large. We say pole, and as we mourn the loss of Ngeno, the same day, Mr. Speaker, we lost 3 women who were killed by elephant. So our hearts are still very heavy, and we pray for both families. May their souls rest in peace. Thank you.
Women Rep Kericho. Kemei.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I want to pass my message of condolence to the family of our great brother, member of this House, Honorable Johanna Ngeno, whom until his demise was actually a great man of the soil, son of our soil, a great Kipsigis man, a great warrior, a great defender of justice and our heritage. Honorable Speaker, his laughter made many happy. It was actually bringing joy to many. And I would say that the artists were happy. And I remember one time I asked him why he's mixing the religious or the Christian and the secular. And he said, if you bring Christians alone, we will not have many people attending. So he agreed that next time he would want to separate so that maybe everybody else will join in. May the
Komingoi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to eulogize my friend, Joanna Ngeno. The people of Kenya mourn, the housing industry mourns, the people of the Great Rift Valley are also mourning. Honorable Speaker, my sympathies also go to the staff that worked with Joanna Ngeno, the people who may have depended on him directly or indirectly, that now they will feel the loss, and we pray that God will keep them and watch over them all, together with the 5 that perished with him. I pray that they will be kept well by the Lord in all their endeavors in this life. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Martin Owino. We're coming to an end. Be quick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of Ndewa community, where Honorable Ngeno came and did for us a rambe. This is a guy who did not have any boundary when it comes to services to Kenya. Allow me to express my condolences and strength to the family and to the entire nation because he was a national guy. May God bless the family and keep them strong.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to join my colleagues in eulogizing a great son of Kenya. I wish to pass my condolences on behalf of my family and my constituents, Mbeere North. And I wish to really condole with the family, especially the immediate family, for this loss. And I ask Kenyans to pray for this young family. And I ask my colleagues not to forget that our colleague has left a young family so that we are there for them, because words alone will not count in this difficult situation, but prayers and our presence will. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Kaitanyi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I would wish to pass my condolences to the family, the people of Emurua Dikir, for the loss of Mheshimiwa Johanna Ngeno and the other 5 people who perished with him in the accident. We remember Johanna Ngeno. I knew him way before he even joined Parliament, and Johanna Ngeno has always been a very happy soul. And when we came to Parliament as first-timers, he took time. He always used to take time to take us through what needs to be done in Parliament. And I remember one time when I was actually passing a motion here, I didn't know what to do, and he walked and came to where I was and helped me pass the motion in Parliament. As I conclude, Honorable Speaker, I wish to thank the people of Nandi, the people of Mosop who went out of their way, and especially one girl who had just learned about nursing.
Sabina Chege. Give her the mic. There's one next to you on the right.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to take this opportunity to eulogize my friend, a person we came into Parliament at the year 2013, a strong leader, Mr. Speaker. And I just remember when we were going to Narok to get his young wife, Mr. Speaker, that Honorable Ngeno was very happy, ever smiling, and so to his wife and children, may God console them. And Mr. Speaker, I just want to say as leaders, let us support the family, but most importantly, let us love one another because we never know about tomorrow. Fare thee well, Honorable Ngeno, and the other workers who are with him at the plane. May all their families be consoled. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Sirma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to eulogize my great friend, Honorable Johanna Ngeno. Ngeno was a person of principle. Ngeno was a person who would stand on his own and become what his people would like to be. Ngeno came to this parliament on 3 different tickets, not one, because it was his people who determined. He would have come in the earlier time of 2007, but because of the clashes which were there, he was not able to come. But what we are saying is the people of Emurua Dikir have really felt, and we feel equally, that we have lost a warrior and a leader. May the mighty Lord rest his soul in eternal peace. Thank you.
Honorable members, we'll end here. Thank you very much for all of you who have voiced your condolences to the family, friends of not only Johanna Ngeno as our colleague, but Captain Were, who many of you have said you knew. In fact, Captain Were flew me, Aaron Cheriot, and Farouk Kibet 2 weeks ago from Narok to Kakamega and back to Nairobi. And is somebody we have all dealt with. And the staff and friends of Honorable Ngeno who are with him. Like I did say earlier, tomorrow morning you have passed a motion that we will not sit. The Requiem Mass is in a church in Karen called NGC. I think it's somewhere opposite the Catholic Church. I encourage all of us to be seated by 8:30 so that by 9 the service begins, and by 12:30, we come back to start Parliament at 2:30. Once again, we condole with the family collectively and individually. And those of you who can, please let's also go to Emurua Dikir on Friday to join the President and many other Kenyans to see off Honorable Ngeno and our other Kenyans. Next order. I direct clerk that the eulogies that have been made here by honorable members, the condolences by at least 50 of you this afternoon, be printed out and be sent to the family for their records. Next order.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
We go back, honorable members, to statements, requests. Abubakar Talib.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 44-2C, I rise to request for a statement from the Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security regarding mounting of roadblocks along public roads in the country. Honorable Speaker, Section 69A of Traffic Act, Cap 403, regarding mounting of roadblocks empowers the Inspector General of Police to, by notice in the Gazette, designate a place along a public road on which a police roadblock may be mounted. The Act further provides the roadblocks may be mounted in a non-designated place only in exceptional circumstances certified by the Inspector General or his authorized officer. Honorable Speaker, whereas roadblocks are intended to enable security agencies to regulate flow of traffic for purposes of responding to security issues and carrying out inspections intended for enforcement of traffic rules, there have been complaints that police officers across the country take inordinately long to clear vehicles at roadblocks. It is further claimed that some officers extort motorists at roadblocks instead of enforcing traffic rules. The long time taken to clear vehicles at roadblocks cause stretched traffic queues that delays travelers and transporters. Honorable Speaker, therefore it's against this background that I request for a statement from the Chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security on the following.
Or is it just going off? Pardon? Okay, go ahead. You now have the mic.
Comprehensive,
the technical staff to check where the mics are going on.
comprehensive report on all gazetted and designated places for mounting of roadblocks along public roads, particularly major highways in the country and the current status. 2, the justification for mounting numerous roadblocks both during the day and at night along roads and highways across the country, including undesignated places. And 3, measures put in place by the ministry to ensure that inspections carried out at roadblocks are done seamlessly to avoid the long queues that cause delays on the road. Thank you.
Chair, Committee on Administration and Internal Security, Tongoyo. Not here. Any member of the committee? Majority Leader instructed them to bring a response in 2 weeks, or at least a week. The week will resume after the short recess. He will be informed. Next, Ojambo Undo. Question deferred. Response. Coach, are you ready? Go ahead. Is Onjoke in the house? Yes.
Thank you once more, Honorable Speaker. This is a response for a statement that was sought by Honorable Charles Onchoke regarding the reported coercion of Kenyan citizens to join the Russian military and whereabouts of Mr. Clinton Nyapara Mogasa and Mr. Justus Moyenda Ombati in Russia. Honorable Speaker, Dr. Charles Onchoke, MP pursuant to the provisions of standing order. I think I'll go straight to the response, Honorable Speaker, so I don't waste time. And the response is as follows, Honorable Speaker. A report on whereabouts of Mr. Clinton Mogesa and Mr. Justus Ombati. The ministry, both at the headquarters and through our embassy in Moscow, has limited access to Kenyans in distress unless the same is reported by the family or diaspora leadership. This is more reason why a 24-hour diaspora call center was established under State Department for Diaspora Affairs to receive distress calls, contact family members, and be the first point of contact for distress cases reporting. At the mission level, the Kenyan embassy in Moscow has continuously requested the Russian authorities to assess for access to information to ascertain the actual number of Kenyans involved in the military operation, the SMO, special military operation rather, those injured and also those that are deceased. These requests have been sent to the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Federation. The mission is, however, yet to receive a response to the numerous requests for information or for consular assistance and further repatriation of Kenyans. The ministry, therefore, and after confirmation from our embassy in Moscow, wishes to report the following: that there has been no formal confirmation of the death of Mr. Clinton Nyapara Mogesa, passport number BK154412 from the Russian authorities. However, the mission has written to the Foreign Affairs of the Russian Federation to request confirmation of this, and we're yet to receive the response, Honorable Speaker. Number two is there is no information related to Mr. Justus Moyenda Ombati, a passport number AK05-16222. The mission in Moscow has equally written to the Russian authorities to confirm and has been following up on the matter, but to this point, there has not been any response. Number three is that immediate action is being taken by the Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs to engage with the government of Russian Federation to repatriate Mr. Ombati and the remains of Mr. Nyapara. Honorable Speaker, as informed above, there is no information related to Mr. Justus Moyenda Ombati of passport number AK05-16222. The mission has written to the Russian authorities to confirm his whereabouts, but up to this point, there hasn't been any response received. Honorable Speaker, there being no formal confirmation of death of Mr. Clinton Nyapara Mogesa of the passport that I read from the Russian authorities, it is difficult to ascertain the death, whereabouts, or the remains of Mr. Nyapara, so that any repatriation of mortal remains can be undertaken. The ministry, through the Kenyan embassy in Moscow, has written the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Federation to request the confirmation of this, and we are yet to receive the response. The ministry has vowed that it will continue to follow up on this matter to its finality. The measures as requested by Mheshimiwa is that the measures that have been put in place to strengthen collaboration between the Russian government to curb fraudulent employment agencies and the target and suspecting Kenyan job seekers. Honorable Speaker, I want to say as follows, that this has been very emotive and close to all of us, especially when we read and hear about the young people taking up those jobs and end up dying. To this end, Honorable Speaker, the Prime Cabinet Secretary will undertake an official visit to Moscow. It's probably not nothing that, Honorable Speaker, I'll be, with your permission, I will be accompanying the Prime Cabinet Secretary on between the dates of 13th to 17th of this month to Moscow. The Prime Cabinet Secretary will undertake an official visit to Moscow, Russia, to meet his counterpart to discuss this matter and hope to bring to finality and protect not just the welfare and rights, but the sanctity of life of Kenyans in Russia. The ministry continuously holds meetings with officials of the Russian embassy in Nairobi, raising concerns regarding this matter and are jointly working together to sift out rogue agents trying to process visas for Kenyans and following up on whereabouts of Kenyans as reported by families. The ministry continues to undertake sensitization on Kenyans through the media and social media platform. Ngao, barazas, educational institutions, labor mobility, pre-departure trainings, and other public forums in a bid to inform Kenyans of dangers of rogue recruitment agencies, fake non-existent jobs, and the challenges that come with not seeking information, verification, and engaging government in such ventures. As I conclude, no, not concluding, it's quite long, Honorable Speaker, but let me just do it quickly. Honorable Speaker, in addition to the above, the government continues to put in place measures to protect all Kenyans and working abroad, and including Russia, through bilateral labor agreements, to ratification of international labor conventions, continuous registration of Kenyans, established 24-hour diaspora call center, welfare checks, provisions of consular service, deployment of labor attaches, additionally, in liaison with State Department of Foreign Affairs. In conclusion, Honorable Speaker, the ministry has stated that they are keen to ensure that the welfare, rights, and interests of Kenyans abroad are protected and will continue to employ all necessary measures to guarantee their safety and well-being. However, as we undertake all the above interventions as a government, the ministry has noted that Kenyans are not heeding their call against recruitment to Russia, but instead are taking a leap of faith in the hope of financial empowerment. This provides a clarity to the question of coercion, as information the ministry receives through engagement with some family members and even those who have returned indicate that some of those going to Russia to join the Russian army are willingly doing so. The ministry therefore urges Kenyans to desist from taking up jobs in Russian military. This is an active war zone and a war that does not involve our country, and death is almost guaranteed. I submit, and I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Onjoke? You satisfied?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And I thank the Chair, Honorable Nelson, for the response. Given that the remains of Nyapara has not been traced, and there are no plans or there are no indications of his return to Kenya, as well as Mr. Ombati, I would urge that the government continues to do what it needs to do so that our request is met. The families, as you can imagine, Mr. Speaker, are anxious. They are pained with the death and the loss, and with the disappearance, and with no hope of their son coming back to Kenya, so that all this matter is put to rest. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Kimani?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, on this matter of young Kenyans being allegedly killed in Moscow, Russia, cuts across many young people in this country, Honorable Speaker. One of those young people is someone I have known in my earlier life before I came to Parliament, called John Mwangi Nduta, an ex-army officer who hails from Thika, Honorable Speaker. And I was very surprised this week to see photos of him on social media allegedly dying in the army, Honorable Speaker. And perhaps the chairperson needs to inform this House what measures are being taken in place to make sure that if Kenyans being taken for war in Russia actually are aware that they're being recruited to go for war. And number two, Honorable Speaker, that there is adequate training for them, Honorable Speaker, and there are adequate contracts that will shield them and their families in case of any eventualities, Honorable Speaker. And last, Honorable Speaker, although I had not raised this in the question, I'll be following up a follow-up question on the status of John Mwangi Nduta, who was already killed there. What measures will be done to repatriate his body back to his family, and even just official confirmation from Moscow on his status, Honorable Speaker.
Coach? Yes,
ones that-
Sunguli, on the same issue? Yes, Julius? Give Julius Sunguli the mic.
Mr. Speaker, as already indicated before, many of my constituents are involved in this. And I want to urge, I would.
Yes, Julius?
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, as I said, I too am the same position as Honorable Kuria, that in fact there is a statement, request for statement which is yet to be approved by your office from me. But just to appreciate the answer of the chairman, but to say that let the embassy in Moscow be more thorough, because there are people we speak to every day in a hospital called Demikov and in another hospital where people are admitted. One particular one called Tiepon, his legs have been cut, his palms have been cut, his hands and legs have been cut. He's simply surviving and he can talk to you very nicely. But he needs special Kenyan attention by the Kenyan embassy. And this trip that you're going to make, I think it would be good that it be more comprehensive. I would even have urged Mr. Speaker to actually actively get involved in it so that we who represent the people can actually go to see what happens.
I instructed the clerk to include in that delegation on the request of the minister, the chairman of this committee of defense and the chair of diaspora committee. So they will represent all of us. Yes, Coach, those were just comments. Do you want to comment on comments?
No, I think they are very fair comments. All we can say, Honorable Speaker, is that maybe when we come back from the trip that you've, like you said, authorized,
come and issue a
we will
statement.
issue a comprehensive statement.
If not, the PCS will come here to answer questions.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Go back, clerk, to order number 5.
Order number 5, papers.
Chairperson, Departmental Committee on Transport and Infrastructure. GK, can you stop being distracted and attend to business? I've gone back to order number 5 and I'm calling you out to lay your paper.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The good ladies who are making a good request. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay...
You looked overawed and overwhelmed.
I'm a feminist, Honorable Speaker.
Go on.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Tuesday, 3rd March 2026. A report of the Departmental Committee on Transport and Infrastructure on its consideration of the miscellaneous fees and levies Amendment Bill National Assembly, Bill number 57 of 2025. Honorable Speaker, I lay. Thank you.
Under the same order, is the Chairman, Departmental Committee on Blue Economy, Water and Irrigation ready to lay your paper? Or did you do it? Are you ready? Okay. Thank you. Go to order number 11. Leader of Majority.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Tuesday, 3rd March 2026, afternoon sitting. Supplementary Estimates 1 for the financial year 2025-2026 from the National Treasury and Economic Planning and the following accompanying documents. 1, the program-based budget. 2, the recurrent estimates. 3, the development estimates. And 4, the memorandum on supplementary estimates, number 1. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Now go to order number 11.
Order number 11, the National Infrastructure Fund Bill, National Assembly Bill number 1 of 2026, second reading.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the National Infrastructure Fund Bill, National Assembly Bill number 1 of 2026, be now read a second time. Honorable Speaker, allow me first to thank the Chair and the Committee of Finance and National Planning that has considered this bill and taken it through a program of very rigorous public participation since it was read the first time in the House. And the Chair has just this afternoon tabled the report of the committee on their consideration of this bill, including the input of the public during public participation. Honorable Speaker, it is important to give a background on the genesis or the basis on which we find this bill in the House at this particular time, because it's not by accident, Honorable Speaker. Neither is it on second thought. This bill, Honorable Speaker, if you read the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto, and specifically, Honorable Speaker, on page 10 of that manifesto, it said that we shall establish a national infrastructure fund which will be financed from the proceeds of privatization proceeds of state corporations that will be privatized, Honorable Speaker. And this gives us the genesis of the thought of having a national infrastructure fund twinned with the National Sovereign Wealth Fund. And not to mention, Honorable Speaker, that last year, in August of last year, this House also enacted the Government-Owned Enterprises Act that underpinned the basis on which we are now doing this National Infrastructure Fund. And I'm saying this, Honorable Speaker, because there are those who have made everyone to believe that this is an afterthought, or this is something that is being done as an afterthought without having any strategic thinking into it, Honorable Speaker. And it is these naysayers that I want to remind that this bill did not just find itself on the floor of this House. It has a basis of where it has come from. Let me also draw reference to what was said by His Excellency the President in his State of the Nation address last year. Honorable Speaker, if you allow me to quote, or rather to read part of that speech by His Excellency the President at the tail end of last year. And you remember, Honorable Speaker, the President had begun his speech by talking about 4 national priorities or national imperatives that we must, as a country, invest in, touching on energy, touching on water for irrigation, the construction of 50 mega dams and another 200 medium-sized dams to ensure that we no longer depend on rain-fed agriculture in provision of food. He also spoke about the investment, the huge investment that we need to put into the infrastructure of the expansion of our road network. And I remember him going through a whole list of projects, road projects that would be dualed. And of course, what caught my attention was the dualing of Muthaiga, Kiambu, Dumberi Road, and of course, the investment into a new expressway from Museum Hill all the way to Thika. Not to mention the Kericho, Kisii, Migori, Sabania Road, the Mau Summit, Rironi Road, Gong, Bomas Bypass, Karen Gong Bypass, of course, which touches Honorable Ngogoyo's constituency, and I can't see him smiling broadly here because he knows how long it takes him to come from Matasia to the National Assembly. But with the huge infrastructure investment in many of these, and many others, including the SGR extension, because we left an SGR and it was christened the railway to nowhere, because it was left hanging somewhere near Suswa after Dukamoja. And the expansion, or rather the extension of that SGR all the way to Kisumu, Malaba, and to our border with our neighbors, Uganda, and of course opening us to the landlocked countries in the Great Lakes region to expand trade opportunities between our country and the East African region. And the 4 imperatives that the President spoke to, he said that we must invest in those projects, not because they are cheap, but because they're imperatives. And the imperative because these are what will take our nation to the next level. And in so doing, Honorable Speaker, I requested your indulgence to allow me to just read what the President said of these things. That he said, Honorable Speaker, that we cannot continue funding such essential and capital-heavy infrastructure from our own budget because it will necessitate that we continue either to borrow or to overburden taxpayers with additional taxation. And he said we cannot continue funding essential infrastructure through unsustainable borrowing or overburdening taxpayers with additional taxes. But neither can we afford to postpone these imperatives without risking our future. We therefore can't afford to postpone these imperatives. And I have heard some naysayers saying, oh, it is possible to build all these things without borrowing. It is possible to do it from our revenues. Honorable Speaker, the same naysayers who will also tell us that we have so much resources that we raise and so much that we are spending in repaying our debt and repaying our other obligations under the Consolidated Fund Services. And the President went on to say that there is a need to be innovative in the use of national revenues at our disposal. The revenues that we raise, we must be innovative in how we utilize them. But also in the deployment of national assets available to us and in creating public-private partnerships that will crowd in the enormous pool of private sector resources available regionally and globally. That is part of the objective of this bill, that you'll be able to crowd in the huge and immense resources that we have in the private sector, globally and regionally, to be able to raise more capital to invest in these capital-intensive projects. Honorable Speaker, the President went on to say that this is why we will establish the National Infrastructure Fund, whose architecture will be underpinned by the reforms in the Government-Owned Enterprises Bill, which was passed by this House in August last year, and he indicated at that time that he would be signing that law the following day, and which I can confirm the President did assent to the Government-Owned Enterprises Bill, which is now an act of Parliament. And that is what is underpinning this National Infrastructure Fund. And he went on to say that this fund is a strategic solution that will provide a framework to innovatively scale up our resources to match our ambition. It will fulfill our manifesto commitment to rebuild Kenya's infrastructure while reducing reliance on debt. We will do this by using budgeted resources prudently and introducing a financing architecture that leverages capital markets, diversifies ownership through unlocking of national assets through privatization, and uses the public-private partnership frameworks to channel private capital into public priorities. Honorable Speaker, for decades, and I remember the President alluding to that also, Kenya has privatized major public assets. This is not the first time that we are privatizing public assets. You remember we privatized KPLC, we privatized Kenyan, we privatized Safaricom, and the call then was for us as members of Parliament and as legislators and policymakers to ask ourselves, what national asset exists today that we can show out of the privatization proceeds when we sold Safaricom, when we sold Kenyan, when we sold KQ, or even KPLC. And we can't show anything, Honorable Speaker, because many of these privatization proceeds have always gone into financing our budget, and that money is spent either paying salaries or repaying part of our debt. And I must thank the President because he did commit that he will ensure any other privatization proceeds that we get from the sale of our national assets in the parastatals that are lined up for sale or for privatization, none, not a shilling, not a coin of that money will go either into repaying our public debt or into financing our budget to pay salaries or other recurrent expenditure, Honorable Speaker. And the President did say that the National Infrastructure Fund then will come in to break in that cycle. The cycle where you dispose of national assets and you have nothing tomorrow to show for it. And he said that all proceeds from the privatization will be ring-fenced, preserved, and reinvested into new infrastructure and wealth-creating assets. When ownership shifts to the private sector, Honorable Speaker, there is efficiency, and the benefits to the public, Honorable Speaker, don't diminish. Indeed, they multiply. And I have said here before, Honorable Speaker, I think when we were anticipating debate some time back on the sale of Safaricom shares, that if you look at the Safaricom before privatization, what it was, and the behemoth of an institution that Safaricom is today, courtesy of the privatization or the sale of shares by the government of Kenya to Vodacom, and also during the IPO of Safaricom to private sector players. The efficiency that came into that company and many others, and you see the same efficiency will come into KPC and many other institutions that have been privatized, that private sector efficiency coming into the public sector is only beneficial, and it never diminishes the gains or the benefits to the public. It only multiplies the benefits. That is why today Safaricom, KPLC, Kenyan are more efficient, they're employing more people, they are generating more wealth, not just to their shareholders, but also to this country. Safaricom pays taxes in hundreds of billions of shillings every year. Safaricom, when the telecom industry was a monopoly of telecom, the old KPTC, Kenya Post and Telecommunications, where Honorable Chepkonga used to work, you know, that KPTC, former KPTC, is a pale shadow of what Safaricom today is. Not to mention that there are other players that have also come into the market in that space of telcos. Airtel and all the others, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, the intent of this National Infrastructure Fund is to leverage not just on private sector expertise and capital, but also to multiply the benefits to the public of what we hold as public assets. And those in this house, like Honorable Amboka, who has just walked in, who superintend or who oversight our public investments in state corporations, will tell you there is a lot of wastage of public resources in many of the state corporations that are in this country, Honorable Speaker. And one of the ways to ensure that we stem this wastage is to inject private sector capital and private sector expertise and management into this space, Honorable Speaker. And that is part of what the intent of this fund. This fund will be managed by a board of directors or a board of management that will be, or one, the language in the bill is that the board shall be competitively recruited, Honorable Speaker. And if you go, those who have bothered to read the bill, Honorable Speaker, and I say those who have bothered to read the bill because many just speak out there without even reading the bill and saying, the board will have political appointees. This bill, Honorable Speaker, specifies the mode of appointment of the CEO. The board shall be recruited competitively from the private sector, Honorable Speaker, or independent board members, including the chair. In the past, Honorable Speaker, you know, chairs of boards and directors of boards have been nominated not in a very competitive manner, and we have seen a lot of political patronage in the appointment of chairs of boards. This, both the chair, the CEO, and all the independent directors or board members shall be recruited competitively, Honorable Speaker, to make sure that we have a board, a fund that is being managed in a very prudent manner and in a way that it gives priority to national or public interests, Honorable Speaker, other than political interests. Honorable Speaker, we are not the first nation to do this. And I think it's important to mention case examples, successful case examples of other funds like this that have done well. And this is a proven model that has worked in Australia. Australia's future fund is modeled around what we are doing today as a country. Therefore, when we say that we are moving from being a third world country to a first world country, it is not just in terms of the strategic interventions that have been made, but also in the legislation that we seek to make. And I must thank members because you are all here. We all participated in the enactment of the Government-Owned Enterprises Act, and I thank you for being here also to participate in the enacting of this National Infrastructure Fund. And I remember last year, if you remember, in his State of the Nation address, the President did challenge us that it is this generation, it is this 13th Parliament that will be remembered in the transformation of our republic. when this nation eventually transforms from being a third world country, Honorable Speaker. I have mentioned the Australia's Future Fund, Honorable Speaker. If you go to Singapore, and I know the road to Singapore, or the transformation of a country from a third world to a first world nation, has been christened as a journey to Singapore. The road to Singapore, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Speaker, if you can protect me from my younger old boy, the Honorable Clive Gisairo, who attended the Alliance High School years after I left. And now he has the audacity to shout from his seat. He should know I was in charge of discipline, and Honorable Speaker, now you're in charge of discipline, so please discipline me to read the bill and contribute to the bill. And I was giving examples, Honorable Speaker, of places where these such similar funds have worked. I've mentioned the Australia's Future Fund, Singapore itself. The Temasek in Singapore is such a fund that has also worked for their country in the transformation of their country. UAE's, or the United Arab Emirates, Mubadala, demonstrates that commercially run public investment funds can grow national wealth and deliver transformative infrastructure. That is the other intent of this bill, Honorable Speaker, that we will have a public investment fund that will not only grow our national wealth, but will deliver on that transformative infrastructure in the development of dams for irrigation, for provision of water, in the provision, generation, distribution, and provision of energy to be able to drive the industrial transformation that we intend to have, Honorable Speaker, which we have spoken for over the years. Honorable Speaker, I have had cases or a story being told of the investment. Almost, I don't know, a few $1 billion investment that was to come to Naivasha. And I wish the member of Naivasha was here. I hear there is a neighbor from Naivasha in Njoro who is behind me, the member for Njoro. The county of Nakuru was to benefit from a project worth billions of dollars in the provision of a data center, or the construction and investment of a data center. But the only reason why that project has not taken off, Honorable Speaker, or could not take off, is because we didn't have the energy. And it was built with a huge investment in the geothermal wells in Olkaria, and those in Menengai. Probably we had enough energy to run that data center. But it became clear to the investors and to us as a country that we did not even have a third of the energy that was required. That data center had the potential to employ hundreds of thousands of Kenyans directly and many others indirectly, leave alone the immense FDI, or foreign direct investment, that would have come into this economy. But we lost that because we didn't have enough energy. It is that investment in generation of energy, distribution of energy, that we must put in. It is that investment in that extension of SGR, our ports, both seaports and airports, Honorable Speaker. Look at the opportunity, Honorable Speaker, because every crisis comes with an opportunity, Honorable Speaker. The most efficient of world airlines are in the Gulf region. Qatar Airlines, Etihad, Emirates of this world. Today, they are all grounded for the last 3 or so days. People are stuck in Dubai, others in Europe and elsewhere. They have planes that Kenya Airways doesn't have, but they can't move. What if we had an efficient Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, state-of-the-world Moi International Airport in Mombasa, world-class airport at Moi Airport in Eldoret, Kisumu International Airport, or even the one in Lokichogi, Honorable Speaker? Those are the opportunities that we missed today because we slackened or we delayed in making deliberate, huge infrastructural investments, be it in the development of our roads infrastructure or our sea and airports. But we cannot afford, Honorable Speaker, to wait anymore. We cannot afford, Honorable Speaker, to what many want to tell us, that, oh, I've heard some tell us here that, oh, Mwai Kibaki built one highway called Thika Road that was built at a cost of 28 billion shillings. And forget to tell us that Mwai Kibaki had the pre-2010 constitution. He never had any obligation to send 400 billion shillings every year to counties. And maybe for those who join this house later, that me and my friend Nelson here, or yourself, Honorable Speaker, may not know that this is the 13th, in the 11th Parliament, the then chair of the Budget and Appropriations Committee, fine gentleman, man of God, the Reverend Mutava Musimi, led the Budget and Appropriations Committee then, which was comprised of about 51 members then, around the country, auditing the implementation of the 2010 Constitution. And I would invite those who speak for political expediency many a times to speak to the gallery, to take their time, because that report is here in the table office, to go and read that report. Then you will see the dichotomy that is there before the 2010 Constitution and the challenges of administrations that came post the 2010 Constitution, or the administrations in this country that will have to implement the 2010 Constitution. Then you will understand, so that when you are speaking out there to seek cheap publicity, political publicity, Honorable Speaker, that sense may come back to you to speak as a leader, not as a politician. Speak to what is right. Speak to what is good for the country. Because these 4 imperatives that were spoken to us here in the State of the Nation address last year are not national imperatives for one leader or for this parliament. They are national imperatives for this generation of leaders and the next generation of Kenyans and generations to come. And that is why someone once said that politicians look at the next general election. That is why you'll hear people say things that they think will excite the masses for the next election. That is why you'll hear them talk about terms with no agenda, with no plan, with no thinking as to what they have for the country, Honorable Speaker.
Order, Honorable Mbui and Undo.
It is, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Ondo is very innocent. You know, Honorable Ondo listens to contributions because he makes sensible contributions in the House. It is those who are shouting because they know what they usually shout out there who are shouting. I do not need to name them. They know themselves. It is like those who are celebrating the death of a colleague to make political capital in a rally in Nyahururu. Shame on them, Honorable Speaker. And shame on that person who was also shouting here, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this bill or this fund, how will it be financed? And I'm saying this for the benefit of the member for Kajiado North, that this fund will be financed with proceeds from privatization and disposal of government assets. So the proceeds of the IPO of KPC will not go to pay salaries for members of parliament or pay your mileage on a bongoyo. This money will come into this fund. Neither will the proceeds, should this House approve the partial divestiture of Safaricom by the government of Kenya, the money that will be raised will also come into this fund. 2, there will be parliamentary appropriations, and it is you as members of parliament who appropriate money into this fund as a source of fund. And of course, there are also, if you read in the bill, part 4 of the bill, part 6 of the bill, you also see that there also be other monies from any other source provided for or donated or lent to the fund, or even such fees, monies, or assets as may accrue to or be vested in the fund in the course of the exercise of its powers or the performance of its functions under the Act, should it become an Act, or under any other written law. Honorable Speaker, the establishment of this fund will significantly enhance the country's capacity to deliver, as I said, on transformative infrastructure projects in roads, railways, energy, water infrastructure, and other strategic national assets across the country. And Honorable Speaker, for those who have cared to go through the bill, if you read part 4 of the bill, the board of the bill is mandated to develop an investment policy, and it is this investment policy which must be approved by the Cabinet Secretary, and the Cabinet Secretary means the National Treasury Cabinet Secretary. It is this investment policy that will prioritize sectors that are proposed for development to ensure that there is equity across the nation, Honorable Speaker. 2, they will specify the proposed projects and see any existing incomplete projects from the previous investment policy to ensure that if they are proposed new projects, you must first complete any that were in the previous investment policy before you invest in new programs or projects, Honorable Speaker. 4 is also to give the expected rate of return on investment on specific projects. And this is to ensure also that money is prudently and transparently invested and in a way, prudently invested in a way that there is a good return. And therefore, there must be a proper evaluation of the investments that are to be invested in to make sure that you do not deplete this fund. It will also specify the asset allocation and portfolio distribution and the exposure limits per sector and per project, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the board will also adopt an investment plan that will be based on the national strategic objectives, Honorable Speaker. And this investment plan, for instance, is the first board will be informed by what has already been debated in this House, those 4 strategic interventions that the President spoke to in the State of the Nation address, in ensuring that we invest in our human capital and education. Because, Honorable Speaker, the cost of education, not just in this country, globally, is very expensive. But it has been said that if you want to know how expensive education is, try ignorance or try not educate your country, then you know then how expensive it could be if you do not educate. And therefore, we must invest in the education of our children. We must invest in water resources management, either through the construction of those 50 mega dams and the 200 medium-sized dams, generation of electricity, and also the growth of our industries, Honorable Speaker, through that generated power to create jobs for the youth that then we educate. And therefore, this bill is creating the provision under Part 3 that the board will have that responsibility of adopting an investment plan that will be based on those national strategic objectives. And that plan, Honorable Speaker, will form the basis of the annual performance contracts which the board must sign between them and the Cabinet Secretary of the National Treasury. Because we want to hold people to account. And that is why the bill has those particular imperatives that you must have a performance contract signed between the board so that we measure and evaluate how they are doing. If you promised us a certain rate of return, if you promised us delivery of certain infrastructure projects, if you are not able to do it, Honorable Speaker, when you are being evaluated, and for those who have cared to go through the performance evaluation in clause 20 of this bill, you will see that the bill provides for a very good mechanism of evaluating their performance, having a performance-based contract for the board and the management of this fund, Honorable Speaker, and also ensuring, as I said earlier, that there is competitive recruitment of both the board and the secretariat that will manage this fund, Honorable Speaker, to ensure that we have the best. And that is why you see even in the board, if you are Kimani Ichung'wah or Robert Mbui, and you have served in a political office or have been affiliated with a political party in the last 5 years, including those who serve as party officials, you cannot and you shall not be nominated for appointment to this board, because we must protect we must protect. Honorable Speaker, if you can protect me from this member for Kajiado North, Honorable Ngogoyo. And you know Honorable Ngogoyo was an MCA in Kajiado, and I had visited his ward when he was an MCA there.
Order.
It was ordinary for...
When I look at the screen here, my presumption was that you really want to contribute on this matter and order and say, but I only see you talking across the, you should communicate through the chair. And in any case, for God's sake, if you have some good ideas about this private infrastructural fund, then if you don't have a card, come and tell me that you don't have a card. And I'll pick you so that you can also make your contributions.
Honorable Speaker.
This is a house of debate. And the debate is also structured, it's done in a disciplined way. My Honorable Mbui, I'm sure you know that. This is your third term in the House. Proceed, Leader Majority.
Honorable Speaker, I think Honorable Robert Mbui is the one to blame because he turned next to Honorable Ngogoyo. And Ngogoyo, being a first-time member, may think in the House you just sit and shout one term or two term. Honorable Mbui is the one who should be helping Ngogoyo to tell him to read the bill and contribute to what is in the bill. And what is in the bill, Honorable Speaker, is to ensure that this fund is not misused. The bill has also put mechanisms in place which will include the fund being audited by the Auditor General, and that Auditor General will report to you as members of Parliament. You know, you are the ones who oversight the Auditor General, and all her reports, all the reports of the Office of the Auditor General, end up in this House. Therefore, you will have your place in making sure that whatever is audited comes to this House. That is why you see diligent people, chairs of committees like Honorable Amboka is very keen to listen because he knows these reports will come to him in his Public Investments Committee or PAC, for that matter. Two, Honorable Speaker, is to ensure that there is no overdrawing of this fund. You cannot overdraw this fund, Honorable Speaker, and that is an imperative that we are legislating in law here. Also to ensure that we cap the expenditure in the fund, that it shall never and it cannot exceed its annual income. Therefore, when the fund is established, they have a secretariat. If anybody imagines that is the opportunity to go and start buying buildings in town or buying cars for the chairman and directors and CEOs and whoever else, we shall regulate how much you can expend, and it must be within what you are generating. Two is a ring-fence withdrawal, as I said, even in terms of investments. What kind of projects are you investing in? Are they properly evaluated? Do they have a return? Are they commercially viable? Those are the issues, Honorable Speaker. Five is also to ensure that there is reinvestment of any surplus, so that if we have any surplus from the fund, that money doesn't just hang around like used to happen in many parastatals. And I must thank the National Treasury. In the last 2 years, Honorable Speaker, they have been able to mop up a lot of surplus funds in many of our public investments. And therefore, this fund, we're also saying, just like all other public investment funds, if there is any surplus, it must be reinvested to keep growing the fund, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I could belabor too many points in the bill, and I want to imagine that many members have read this bill and are aware of the provisions of what is in the bill. I would just implore on all of us to support this bill because it is establishing a very structured and transparent process that also identifies, evaluates, and even an approval process and financing of infrastructure projects in the country. And if you go through clauses 21 to 25, that very detailed structure and framework has been established, and one that will ensure there's transparency, even in how you identify projects, how you evaluate those projects, how they are approved, all that is put in the bill, and how those projects will be financed. Honorable Speaker, I mentioned the issue of the investment policy, which will be done and will subsist for a period of 5 years. Therefore, just allow me, Honorable Speaker, to conclude by saying that this fund is within the powers that have been vested by our Constitution to this House. And Honorable Speaker, you know our Constitution in Article 206, sub-article 1A, empowers Parliament to establish other public funds for a specific purpose through an act of Parliament. And that is why I began by giving the genesis of where this fund is coming from, right from the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto. When we campaigned around the country, we went to every village, every county in this country, and we told the Kenyan people that we will have a national infrastructure fund which we shall utilize to grow our economy. And you know where the economy was at that time, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, what we are doing today, this bill is giving effect to this constitutional provision by creating that very well-structured and accountable framework for infrastructure financing in the country without overburdening either the Kenyan people through additional taxes or overburdening future generations through additional funding. Honorable Speaker, allow me to conclude by just giving a simple example, and I gave you the example of the opportunity that we would have had if Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, Moi International Airport, Kisumu International Airport, the airport in Lokichogio, the airport in Eldoret and Mombasa were state-of-the-art airports with good runways to accommodate your Airbus 320s and 330s and all the huge Boeing jets that are stuck around the world. It has been estimated, probably, Honorable Speaker, a new airport would cost us, or rebuilding of the JKI would cost us about 200 billion shillings. It would be very easy, Honorable Speaker, today to raise the 200 billion shillings or the 100 billion shillings that was raised from the IPO from Kenya Pipeline, and the 200 and something billion shillings that will be raised from Safaricom partial divestiture should it be approved by this House. Take 200 billion shillings and we go and build an airport. Yet people in the northern parts of Kenya are starving. Animals are dying there every day, including parts of our coastal region, areas like Magarini and other areas in Kwale. And even other parts in upcountry, even in parts of central Kenya, there are people who are starving because of the drought that was there. Thank God there are rains. So the competing priorities that we have as a country, we must decide, do we pay school capitation for our children, or do we go and build an airport? And we could easily get the 200 billion shillings from the IPO and invest it in building an airport. We have that railway to nowhere that's tolled around Dukamoja after Suswa. It is not giving us a return on the investment that the Kenyan public put in the building of that railway. For it to be meaningful and give us a return on investment, it must be able to connect our port in Mombasa to the port in Kisumu and to the hinterland, landlocked countries in the Great Lakes region, Uganda, DRC, and the others. Therefore, with all these competing priorities, Honorable Speaker, do we finish building a dam in Galana Kulalu and provide food to the starving Kenyans, including hay to animals that are starving in parts of our country, or do we build the airport? It is possible to chew gum and scale the stairs at the same time, Honorable Speaker. That is what this fund is speaking to. This fund is inviting us to be able to chew gum and scale the stairs, to be able not to overburden the Kenyan public with additional taxes or additional borrowing, but also at the same time to invest in very capital-intensive infrastructure projects, that the building of a new airport, completion of that railway, SGR railway, completion of the dual carriage roads that we have mentioned, be it Mausami to Rironi, be it Marwa to Nanyuki, to Isiolo, to Meru, back to Makutano, be it the one in Gong, Karen, and back to Gong Road. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, what will this fund do? Because I've had many people ask that. Okay, so you are telling us you have a national infrastructure fund and you privatize companies, state-owned companies, put the money in the fund. Then you have told us you will not pay debt from that fund, you will not pay salaries, it will not be budgetary support fund. Instead of getting 200 billion shillings to go and invest in the building of a new JKI or a new airport here in Nairobi, any person that you invite to do a public-private partnership, even in the private sector, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I know you are a very successful business person, you know, that whatever investment you make, Honorable Speaker, people leverage on equity. And people will have equity, then they go out and borrow. I'll have my 1 billion shillings. I want to invest in a 5 billion shillings project. That constitutes 20% of the investment in that project. So long as it's commercially viable, I go to the market, I raise another 4 billion shillings, then the project pays for itself. That is all government intends to do with this fund. The 200 billion shillings you raise from Safaricom or from Kenya Pipeline, instead of taking that 200 billion shillings, paying salaries, buying relief food, paying for our school capitation, we continue doing that as we have been doing through our locally raised revenues and what we are borrowing domestically and externally. But since the construction of an airport today is a huge commercial opportunity, and I alluded to that, supposing we had those efficient airports, all those world airlines in the Gulf had the opportunity today to use Kenya or Nairobi as their operation hub. You can imagine one airline going to Europe probably needs 3 sets of crews. That crew would need to be accommodated in hotels in Nairobi for them to come and change shifts. Imagine the investment opportunity in hotels, in our hospitality industry. Our taxis, our Uber drivers, having this hub as a connecting hub now between those countries where there is war and the rest of the world, Honorable Speaker. Today, somebody who was going to the US through Emirates or Qatar cannot. But if Qatar could operate from Nairobi, is a business opportunity and a commercially viable opportunity, Honorable Speaker. That is what I'm saying. If we take, say, we need 200 billion shillings to invest in a new airport. If we invite Honorable Robert Mbui as a private investor to come and invest in the airport, all Mbui will need is 50 billion shillings. Then he will go out and raise from the capital markets and financial markets another 150 billion shillings. That is the opportunity we want to tap into, Honorable Speaker. That we can have our 200 billion shillings, instead of investing a lot of it in that airport, we will take our 50 billion shillings, invite a private investor who will bring in the efficiency of the private sector to bring their 20 or 30 billion shillings, buy equity into that project of a new airport. And that new project will leverage on the equity that you have and the capital that you have to raise probably 5-fold or 10-fold the money that you're holding and be able to efficiently run a new airport that will repay itself. Therefore, instead of investing 200 billion shillings into one project, that 200 billion shillings can go into 10 projects. And that is how the President, in his State of the Nation address last year, for those who care to remember, alluded to how you can invest 5 trillion shillings in the next few years by leveraging on what we raise from our public assets that we privatize, leverage on that, raise more capital, invest in those capital-heavy infrastructure projects that will further grow our economy and create job opportunities for millions of our young people, whom we are very happy to keep lying to as we lecture them out there, telling them, oh, you will get jobs. Oh, go to school. We are paying for you school fees. You finish your schooling and you get jobs. But there will be no jobs if you don't grow this economy. And you will not grow this economy by taxing Kenyans or over borrowing. You will not. It is true. And Robert Mbui was telling us 2 years ago during the finance bill that you cannot tax the people to death. That is what now we are inviting you. Don't tax Kenyans to death. Let us have innovative new financing ways, models that have worked elsewhere, that have worked in UAE, that have worked in Singapore, that have worked in Australia, that have worked in Germany and other countries around the world. Because we aspire to be a first world country, that aspiration must be backed by solid legislation like this. Solid legislation that will ensure that we protect our public assets. Solid legislation that will ensure that the assets we privatize, that money does not go to waste. And generations to come will see a new SGR, will see a new airport, we'll see dams in Galana Kulalu, we'll see dams in Tana River, in Kilifi, we'll see a nation that feeds itself.
Yeah, give him an additional 2 minutes just to wrap it up.
Honorable Speaker was saying a nation that will be able to feed itself. That will not happen by accident, Honorable Speaker. It must be deliberate and conscious effort by leaders. And I say by leaders, Honorable Speaker, because politicians will tend to speak to what they think will be exciting to the gallery. I want to invite you, honorable ladies and gentlemen, honorable members of parliament, please desist from the temptation to be politicians. I know next year is an electoral year, but Kenyans will remember you for the legislation like this that you passed, that protected the assets, grew the economy, and secured the future of our children. And I say our children for those of us who have children. And those of us who have young children, for that matter. Because I know some of us have children who are as old as me. But those with young children...
Order, MD, majority leader.
Sorry?
If it were not for politics, you would not be addressing this house. But there's good politics and there's bad politics.
There's good, yes,
so
Honorable
make the
Speaker, thank
distinction.
you. There's good politics, but there's backward politics. Retrogressive politics. That only seeks to excite the masses without speaking truth to them. I hear people saying, oh, I want to speak truth to power. Also speak truth to the people. Because the power belongs to the people. Power comes from the people. If you do not speak truth to them, they will punish you and punish you next year. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move and request the very intelligent chair of the Finance and National Planning Committee, a leader, not just a politician, a leader par excellence, a first-class honor student, second-term member of parliament serving the people of Molo, and doing exemplary well in Molo. And I say that because I have investments in Molo and I know what is happening in Molo, Honorable Speaker. A man who has dedicated his life to the transformation of this country. The member for Molo, my namesake, the Honorable Kuria Kimani. And the chair of Finance Committee will second this motion. And he's a great man. Wait and...
Thank you very much, my leader of majority. And you forgot to mention, there are only less than 150 FCPAs in this country, and I'm one of them in this house. Honorable Speaker, I stand to second this particular bill, the National Infrastructure Bill, Bill number 1 of 2026. Honorable Speaker, to pick from where the leader of majority party left, we have been living a lie as a country, telling ourselves that we can develop our country from the revenues that we collect and the loans that we seek, whether domestically or in foreign loans. Honorable Speaker, in this financial year, we anticipate to collect 3.32 trillion shillings as ordinary revenue. Out of this, 1.098 trillion will go to repayment of, not repayment, will go to payment of interest on loans, not the principal, interest on loans, 1.098 trillion. These are loans that were taken for the Eurobond, that did the infrastructure, some of the infrastructure that we see, and for loans that some were stolen, the proverbial 2 billion shillings that was being stolen every day. 205.2 billion shillings, Honorable Speaker, goes to payment of pensions. Honorable Speaker, another space that has been managed by previous administrations has been the issue of pensions. For a very long time, even now, members of this House have messages from their teachers who are retired, from police officers who are retired, from army officers who are retired, trying to tell them, please help me get my pension. So why is it not possible that our teachers, our civil servants are retiring and the money that they saved as their pension is not available? It's because, Honorable Speaker, we have kept budgeting for monies for our pension in our annual budgets. And for a very long time, until this administration enacted or started the public pension superannuation scheme that now sets aside both the contributions of the employee and the contribution of employer to a kitty, to a fund, so that when these people go on retirement, that money is available to pay them. Both the lumps of money and the monthly pension, Honorable Speaker, is available. Our contingent, the money that we send to our counties, Honorable Speaker, in terms of equitable share, is around 405 billion shillings a year, Honorable Chairperson. Our recurrent expenditures is around 960 billion shillings. These are the salaries we pay for our teachers, the police officers, and all the other civil servants, Honorable Speaker. When you take out all these statutory deductions, which fall the first charge in our other revenue, the only money left for development is 29.8 billion shillings. For information, Honorable Speaker, 29 billion shillings can only build between 30 to 90 kilometers of roads. So if we continue staying and living the way we are doing, if we continue running the economy the way we are running, we would only be able to build a partially 30 to 90 kilometers per year, Honorable Speaker. And that's why the reckoning call is, how do we balance the need for development expenditures, the need to honor our constitutional mandates, whether it is the acquisition fund or our pension obligations or our salaries for recurrent expenditure, Honorable Speaker, or the capitation for schools, without doing what Kenyans told us to do, not to do. They do not want additional taxation. They do not additional borrowing. So how then do we grow our country? Do we do our infrastructure when balancing this particular interest, Honorable Speaker? That's why, Honorable Speaker, the National Infrastructure Fund bill is a game changer in this particular matter, Honorable Speaker. The fund is being proposed to achieve several purposes. One is to scale up and accelerate development of a catalytic national infrastructure, like our national highways, our railway networks, our air and seaports, our electricity generation, our transmission and distribution, water reservoirs, irrigation, and even agribusiness infrastructure. Honorable Speaker, I've had a chance to canvass this country when processing the partial diversity of Safaricom shares, and during this infrastructure fund bill, we did 30 counties, Honorable Speaker. And we traveled from West Pokot to Wajir to Marsabit. And we also went to Nyeri and Murang'a and Nakuru and Baringo and everywhere else, Honorable Speaker. And it's like we live in different countries. For some countries, for some counties, for some constituencies, we have tarmac roads going to every homestead. We have homesteads that have had tapped water since independence. Not since Kenya Kwanza administration, not since Kibaki's administration, but they have had tapped water, Honorable Speaker. But once you go to other parts of the country, it's extremely dry. Some constituencies don't have even a smallest inch of tarmac. Some counties, Honorable Chairperson, are not even connected to the national grid of electricity. Honorable Speaker, the reality is now, how do we ensure that the counties and the constituencies that have tarmac and now need social infrastructure get the social infrastructure they need, but at the same time, those constituencies, those counties that need the hard infrastructure, like roads, like dams, like electricity, get that without, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Speaker, increasing taxation for taxpayers or increasing debt, Honorable Chairperson. And that's why this bill is meant now to reduce the reliance on public debt for the financing of commercially viable infrastructure investments, to strengthen the national capacity for irrigation, structuring and execution of large and complex infrastructure projects, Honorable Chairperson. Honorable Speaker, the bill represents a pivotal moment in our nation's quest for sustainable, debt-light infrastructure development. And as chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning, I'm very proud that are midwifing this bill that will have the most consequential impact of our country. Honorable Speaker, let me remind you that a few years ago we had one of the most successful then debts that was acquired by this country, Honorable Speaker, the Eurobond. The Eurobond was approximately 200 billion shillings, Honorable Speaker. And this is a payment that if